the good stuff. We get to live a life on our own, at home, on our own schedule. The recording part threw me off, so I forgot what I was saying. And then we get to go on really cool trips in addition to. So this is just another really cool perk of this business. I'm gonna ask everyone to bear with me. Again, been sick all weekend, so I think my brain is like still in the other room, but we're gonna still go with it. I prepared, luckily I prepared my call for today on like Thursday or Friday. So I did have a brain then. We're gonna see if it still works today. But this was actually after a book I read. I forgot what the book was called, but I read a book this week, and it inspired me to talk about this topic today because I think it pertains to everything that we do, especially in this business. And when I remember the name of the book, I'm going to share it. But talking about this business, right? It gives us the freedom, it gives us uncapped income, and it gives us a chance to change lives. It really does. We are leaving people in a better place than how we found them. But this business can also be a little bit unpredictable, right? We don't know what this week is going to hold. We could set the same amount of appointments this week as we did last week, and we're going to have different results. One week everything's flowing, right? Leads are converting, you're writing apps, you feel like you finally like got that momentum, you're getting deposits. Then suddenly it's like the air gets sucked out of the room and you're like back to square one, right? Maybe your calls just aren't landing. Maybe you hit a little bit of a dry patch with leads. Maybe you're putting in the activity and you're just not seeing the results, and you see someone else come in and hit those results so much quicker. If you've been there or you're there right now, you're not alone. We've all been there. And this is the moment where agents either pause and panic or they pivot and push forward. And that point's a choice. That's a choice. And the thing is here, you guys, is this business is simple. And I say this to people every single week that I'm talking to in the hiring process. It's very simple, but it's not always steady. And the reason is our variables here that are changing constantly. Okay. So put in me in the chat if you've ever had one of these happen to you. Let's say a lead batch doesn't perform the way you expected. Maybe it's your first lead batch and you didn't book any appointments. Or maybe it's, your eighth lead batch and you book a ton of appointments, but you don't get very many that show up, right? Maybe you book 8 appointments and six of them no show. Maybe you're on the recruiting train and you're recruiting like crazy, but you're not really like getting any traction there. Maybe you have a kid homesick, or maybe you're homesick. Life's busy and you start falling behind on dials, or you're not able to hold yourself accountable to your calendar the way that you wanted to. Maybe your last three sits all said, I want to think about it, and then they ghosted you. All right, put in me in the chat if that's you, if you've ever had one of those happen to you. So here's what separates successful agents from the rest of the agents, okay? They don't freeze, they don't retreat, they shift. They stay in motion. Maybe they pivot. Maybe they try something new without losing their belief in the system. Or maybe they just chalk it up to a weird week and just keep going. This is a big reason why we track our numbers. For me, in the beginning, actually, not even in the beginning, all the way up until now, tracking my numbers has kept me sane because you can get really far into the emotions of a week and just the dramatics of how it feels to sit with people day in and day out and get a no or get a I want to think about it, or get halfway through the application and they want to talk to everyone else about it first. That feels frustrating, and it's easy to get caught up in those emotions. But by tracking your numbers, you're able to take yourself out of the emotion and see the reality. It's just a weird week. And we say here all of the time that out of a 4 week cycle, right, you're going to have one killer week where everything you touch turns to gold. You're going to have another week that is pretty okay, right? Pretty average. It's a good week. Not as good as that one week, but it's pretty good. Another week that's pretty average. And then you're just going to have an awful week. And that's how it goes, right? It's going to be awful. And that's just the cycle, right? And as you get better and better, that awful week changes, right? It might not be as awful. Maybe it's just you wrote a couple of apps versus writing 10 apps. It just depends, but that's how it goes, right? You're just going to have kind of that cycle. So knowing where you're at in that cycle is important, and it helps you just kind of take the emotion out of it. But here's the key point here, you guys. Winners aren't the ones who never face problems. They're the ones who stay in motion even when that path isn't smooth. Okay? If something isn't working this week, don't freeze. Don't retreat, just shift, right? Maybe switch up when you're making your calls. Maybe re-engage with old leads. Maybe try a little text campaign. Maybe hop in a dial room and listen to somebody for a little bit and get a point or two, or maybe a little thing that they say in their script that maybe you're not saying, or just a way that they're saying it that you're not saying. Lean into activity. You push through those rough patches by moving, not by stopping and waiting for them to pass you by. They're not going to pass you by. Okay, you got to go through them. So, what does shifting actually look like? So, if you're finding some struggle with your leads at the time, right? Maybe you're in a patch of just I'm not getting appointments like I want to, or I'm feeling a little bit like ugh, every time I run through my script I feel a little bit ugh. Rework some older leads. If time has passed on those, you're not as emotionally tied to them. So get in there and call through some people you haven't gotten a hold of. You should be working those old leads every week anyway if you want to get that resolution. So get in there and do it. Call them from a different time of day. Call them from a different phone number. You should have at least two phone numbers. If you're brand new here, your own phone number and a Google Voice number is great. That's what I did in the beginning. I just had a Google Voice phone number and my phone number, and I alternated. Alternate phone numbers. Try calling from a different time of day. Ibba was talking about how she dialed a bunch yesterday on a Sunday and booked appointments, right? That's great. And that happens all the time here. Some agents only work on the weekends, and that's a great way to book appointments and to run them. So try calling from a different time of day than you normally are. Follow up with your old clients for referrals, right? Do a quick check-in. See if they got their policy information. Um, Message people in your network, right? Like I've helped a couple people this week, maybe post on social media. We've talked about that a little bit. I've helped 3 people and I'm super excited. If you're looking for coverage, let me know, right? Share your wins. Share what you're seeing on these calls. Share other people winning, and that's going to help you win more too. So change it up. What are you doing that's working and what are you doing that's not working? What's one thing you can do to shift what's not working just in another direction? What's going to get you more momentum? Right? If you haven't written business in a little while, listen back to your own presentations. Where are you losing them? What's that point where you're feeling like they're dropping off? Make note of that. Circle back with your mentor with constructive questions of what can I do? What am I doing here? Here's a recording. If you're recording yourself, that's super helpful. What am I doing here that I'm missing people? Pair up with another agent and role play objections. That's why our workroom here is awesome because you can see people in there and say, "Hey, Tom, can you role play with me really quick? Hey, May, can you role play with me really quick? I just want to make sure I'm sounding right." And you're going to hear advice from someone who's on the same level as you, right? It's great to use your mentor. We're here as well, but you learn a lot from your sideline agents as well because you're in the same thick of it, right? You can get a different perspective from people who are on the same level, who are doing the same exact things, feeling the same exact emotions as you. Ask your upline to shadow a dial session. Double your activity for the next couple days. Not for forever, but just say for the next 3 days, go all in and double what you've been doing the last 2 weeks and see what happens. If you're feeling mentally discouraged, right? Maybe you're through your first week and you didn't get the results you wanted, and now you're just like, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. What did I get myself into? Take a walk before dialing. Shift your energy. Do something that's going to make you feel better. Watch a testimonial or a team training recording that reignites your belief. Call someone on the team who's winning and ask what they're doing differently. Write down your why and remind yourself why you started and who you're doing this for. We talk about the why a lot here, and that's because this business is so mental that we have to keep that in the forefront of our brains. So why are you here? Worst comes to worst, right? When you start fantasizing and thinking, that job I had wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad showing up to work every day and getting told what to do by someone who doesn't have any interest in me or care what I do outside of work, right? It starts to feel better what you left. But then you have to remind yourself you left for a reason. You were excited to come here for a reason. Why is that? Is that worth pushing through this little pain point? Because that's all it is. It's a pain point. And when you push past that, new momentum, new forward motion. If you're recruiting and you feel like you're kind of in a stall there, try a new platform. Maybe Facebook, maybe LinkedIn, maybe Instagram, maybe look through ZipRecruiter and put a job board up there. Talk to your mentor on what you can do there. Host a 15-minute What We Do Zoom with some prospects, right? Share some personal wins on social media. We talked about that for the business side. You can do that for the production and or for the recruiting side too. Don't make it weird. Talk about the opportunity like you would a restaurant that you loved, right? Now, drop a me in the chat, you guys, if you've ever had a week where nothing seemed to go right, but you pushed through it anyway. That might be more of a veteran move on here, but drop a me in the chat if you've ever had a week where nothing seemed to go right, but you pushed through it anyway. I remember I went through a week, and this is not the first time or the last time it's happened, but this is a vivid memory. I had been here for over a year thinking, I was momentum, I was good, I was a top producer. I was feeling it, right? I was an agency owner as well, right? I had achieved some things. And then I had a series where I sat with 12 people in a row and didn't write a single bit of business. 12 people. And I thought that I had forgotten everything. I forgot everything, right? And then once you get to person six, then you really start to question yourself. Then seven, then eight, and then six more people, and I still hadn't written anything. I was in the dumps. And I remember thinking, I can either show up next week and try again, or I can stop and continue feeling this way forever. Like I just failed. And I continued, obviously, I'm still here and ended up having a great week the next week. And there are so many stories, countless stories of that exact scenario where you struggle, you struggle, you struggle. You don't change anything, maybe, but you show up again the next week and you continue, right? And then you win. You just have to get through that trial point. So, again, share that in the chat if you've been there. The agents who win are not the ones with perfect batches of leads or flawless scripts. They're the ones who stay flexible and just keep showing up. Your dials might not pop off today, but today's effort's still building tomorrow's results. It's all building into this momentum ball that's going to keep rolling. And that's the long game, right? The only way to lose here in this business is to stop moving. Now here's a little quote. If you want to write this down, this helped me. It's actually on my board up here. The results you want live on the other side of this hard week, but you have to move through to reach them. The results you want live on the other side of this hard week, maybe this hard month, right? Maybe this hard day, but you have to move through that to reach them. So your challenge today is simple. It's to shift. Find one area where you've been stuck, discouraged, or maybe you're just going through the motions, but you're not putting a lot of intention behind it, and change something. Tweak the time, tweak the tone, tweak the approach, but just don't sit still. So final bit, we've got a little bit of time here. Drop one word in the chat here that describes how you want to feel at the end of this week. Is it focused? Is it fired up? Is it free? What's the one word you want to feel? I like that, Crystal. Fulfilled. Blessed. I like that, Tom. Yep. What else? What else? Accomplished. Yep. Rejuvenated. I like that. Inspired. Absolutely. Excited. Yeah, I like that. Who else? Phenomenal. Reset. Productive. Completed. Resilient. I like it. So make that your focus. Write that word down somewhere where you can see it and make the intention of feeling that way. If you put every action behind that intention of feeling that way, you're going to feel that way at the end of the week. And you're going to have an awesome week regardless, right? Just remember, everything you do, every way you show up is building momentum for tomorrow. You might not see the results today, but it's all going to come back full circle. You just got to keep playing the numbers, and the numbers are just keep showing up. So with that, you guys, have an awesome Monday. We'll see you here, same time, same place next week, but we've got a lot of calls in between now and then, so we'll see you then. Have a good one, y'all.